Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty King Abdullah kicked off a series of meetings on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum upon his arrival with Her Majesty Queen Rania in Davos earlier today. The forum commenced today and runs until the 26th. In his first meeting, His Majesty and Belgian King Philippe discussed bilateral relations and means of enhancing them economically, as well as current regional and international developments and the war on terrorism. King Abdullah emphasized the importance of intensifying international efforts to move the peace process towards reaching a just and comprehensive peace between Palestinians and Israelis that leads to the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. In a separate meeting, His Majesty discussed with President of the Republic of Guinea, Alpha Conde, ways of increasing economic, trade and military cooperation between the two countries. They also reviewed current regional and international developments, efforts to reach political solutions to regional crises, as well as efforts to fight terrorism holistically. The lower house of Parliament agreed to hold a monitoring session on Sunday to discuss the government's measures to hike tax on goods, services and drugs. MPs also passed a bill on the Jordanian universities law that aims to foster independence of higher education institutions so they can carry out their duties and responsibilities within the higher education policy's general framework. The Anti-Narcotics Department foiled an attempt to smuggle 6,200,000 narcotic pills through the Durra border crossing with Saudi Arabia and arrested one person. The Public Security Department said an Anti-Narcotics Department special team was formed to follow up on a tip of a smuggling attempt. It added that it identified two suspects and arrested one while he was trying to cross the border with the smuggled narcotics in a vehicle. In regional news, the Kurdish-led authorities of northeast Syria called for mass mobilization in defense of Syria's Afrin region against a Turkish military offensive. Turkey continued to shell targets in the Afrin district and dispatched convoys of soldiers and tanks into the region. Turkey's air and ground offensive, now in its fourth day, is targeting US-backed Kurdish YPG fighters in Afrin near the Turkish border. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has pledged to also drive Kurdish fighters out of the mainly Arab town of Manbij. The U.S. Congress voted to end a three-day government shutdown, approving the latest short-term funding bill as Democrats accepted promises from Republicans for a broad debate later on the future of young illegal immigrants. The fourth temporary funding bill since October easily passed the Senate and the House of Representatives. President Donald Trump later signed the measure, allowing the government to reopen fully today and keep the lights on through February 8th, when Congress will have to revisit budget and immigration policy. In the world of movies, the Oscars nominations were revealed ahead of the Academy Awards ceremony in Hollywood, which will be held on March 4th. Leading nominations with 13 nods, including top prize for Best Picture, is fantasy drama The Shape of Water. It also earned nominations in all major categories, including for its director Guillermo del Toro. Dunkirk from Warner Brothers followed with 8 nominations, including for director Christopher Nolan. 3 Billboards, also from Fox Searchlight, had 7, while Greta Gerwig became only the 5th woman ever to be nominated for a Best Director Oscar for Lady Bird.
Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour. And Denzel Washington in Roman J. Israel, Esquire.
From movies to the world of glamour and Paris Fashion Week that saw Chanel unveil its Spring-Summer 2018 haute couture collection. The Grand Palais was transformed into a formal garden of terraces and lawns, with the models strolling down the runway in embroidered flowers and 50s-inspired skirts painted with watercolors. The Spring-Summer couture Chanel suits came in almond pinks, violet creams and lemon meringues. Evening wear was just as sugary, but with an extra glaze of teeny hand-sewn beads. Shin-length boots with sculpted wedge heels matched the clothes and were either beaded or tweed. Fashion Week for haute couture ends on Thursday. To sports and the Australian Open semi-finals, former world number one Caroline Wozniacki marched into her second semi-final by beating Spain's Carla Suarez Navarro. Wozniacki met stiff resistance from the 39th ranked Spaniard, who dug deep to save a match point in the second set before outclassing the Dane in the tiebreak. But the second seed steadied herself to secure a 6-love, 6-7, 6-2 victory and book a place in the semi-finals against Belgian Elise Mertens. And finally, for a quick look at the weather, the kingdom will be affected by a cold air mass accompanied by a depression centered over Cyprus, causing temperatures to drop. Therefore, it will be cold and cloudy with rainfall in the central and northern parts of the kingdom, extending to the southwestern regions. Amman tomorrow can expect a high of 11 degrees Celsius, dropping down to 4 degrees at night, while winds will be southwesterly to northwesterly moderate. In the Gulf of Aqaba, moderate conditions prevail, with a high of 22 degrees and a low of 9. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.